You've been lied to about anger your whole life. You were told to calm down, to breathe, to count to 10, to not be angry. Maybe you were punished for it. Maybe you learned to swallow it or to smile when you were furious, to apologize when you were actually right. And here's the snoop. It didn't make the anger go away. It just made you stop listening to it. Because here's what nobody tells you. Anger is not a character flaw. It's a message. Welcome to Ojas theory. Today, we're going to learn how to read anger. Think about pain for a second. Physical pain. If you touch a hot stove and your hand burns, the pain is not the problem. The pain is telling you about the problem. It's your nervous system doing exactly what it's supposed to do, alerting you that something is wrong so you can act. Anger works the same way. Anger is your emotional nervous system firing an alert. It arises when something violates your values, your boundaries, your sense of fairness, or when you feel threatened, dismissed, or unheard. In psychology, emotions are often called affect programs. They're not random. They evolved for a reason. Fear protects us from danger. Grief processes loss. And anger? It is the signal that says something important to me is being violated. Pay attention. The problem isn't the anger. The problem is that most of us were never taught what to do with it after we hear it. We either explode and say or do things we regret, or we suppress and let it eat us alive from the inside. Neither of those is the answer. The answer is to treat anger like the information it is and learn to decode it. So what is your anger actually telling you? Let's break it down. First, a boundary has been crossed. Anger often shows up when someone treats you in a way that violates your values. A coworker takes credit for your work. A friend repeatedly cancels on you. A partner dismisses your feelings. Your anger isn't an overreaction, and it's your internal compass saying this isn't okay. That's important information. Second, you care deeply about something. You don't get angry about things that don't matter to you. If you're furious about injustice, that tells you fairness matters to you. If you're angry that you're being overlooked, that tells you recognition and worth matter to you. Anger usually points toward a value. And knowing your values is knowing yourself. Third, you may be in a situation where you feel powerless. A lot of anger, especially chronic, is actually helplessness in disguise. When we can't control a situation that matters to us, frustration builds. And if we don't address the root cause, it turns into rage. The anger is telling you, I need more agency here. I need to change something. Fourth, something from your past may be triggered. Sometimes our anger is disproportionate to what just happened, and that's a sign the present situation is poking an old wound. The anger is real, but the story underneath it might be older than this moment. That's worth exploring. So the next time you feel angry, instead of immediately reacting, pause and ask, what is this anger trying to tell me? What value is being violated? What do I actually need right now? That shift from reaction to curiosity is transformational. Now let's talk about what happens when we don't listen to our anger. When we bottle it, stuff it, pretend it isn't there. Research in psychophysiology consistently shows that chronic emotional suppression has real physical consequences. Elevated cortisol, increased blood pressure, weakened immune function. Your body keeps score even when your mind tries to forget. Psychologically, suppressed anger doesn't disappear. It leaks. It comes out as passive aggression, as resentment, as snapping at someone over something small when the real issue is something much bigger. It comes out as depression, which many therapists describe as anger turned inward. And relationally, people who never express anger also tend to never express authentic anything. When you shut the door on one emotion, you dim all the others too. You can't selectively numb one. Here's the painful irony. We suppress anger to protect our relationships, but unexpressed resentment is one of the fastest ways to quietly destroy them. The goal is not to become someone who never gets angry. The goal is to become someone who can work with their anger skillfully. So, how do you do that? How do you actually deal with anger in a healthy, productive way? Here are 6 approaches that actually work. 1. Pause before you react. When anger hits, your prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain, goes partially offline. You are literally less rational in that moment. So build in a gap. That gap can be a breath, a walk, a cold glass of water, even 5 minutes. The goal isn't to suppress the anger, it's to give yourself enough space to respond instead of react. 2. Name it to tame it. This sounds simple, but it's not. It's neuroscience. Labeling your emotion. I'm feeling angry right now. Activates the prefrontal cortex and reduces the intensity of the emotional response. When you name what you're feeling, you stop being consumed by it. You become the observer of it. From that position, you have choices. 3. Get curious, not combative. Ask yourself, what specifically triggered this? What value or need feels threatened? Is this about right now, or is something older being activated? This curiosity turns anger from a weapon into a flashlight, illuminating what actually matters. 4. Express it constructively. There's a huge difference between you always do this, you're so selfish, and when this happened, I felt dismissed and I need to talk about it. One is an attack. The other is communication. Healthy anger expression is honest, specific, and focused on your experience, not on destroying the other person. You can be direct without being destructive. 5. Move your body. Anger is an activation state. Your body is flooded with adrenaline and cortisol, primed for action. Exercise, movement, even shaking your hands out, these aren't just cliches. They metabolize the stress hormones and bring your nervous system back down. Run, lift, dance, go for a fast walk. Let your body do what it was designed to do with that energy. 6. Seek support if it's chronic. If you find that you're angry often, at a low simmer most of the time, or that small things trigger massive responses, that's worth exploring with a therapist. Chronic anger is usually a symptom of unresolved pain, unmet needs, or a life situation that genuinely needs to change. Therapy isn't about fixing you. It's about understanding yourself deeply enough to stop suffering unnecessarily. Here's what I want you to take away from this. Anger is not weakness. Anger is not something to be ashamed of or afraid of. Anger is your inner self standing up and saying, something matters here. Pay attention. The question is never, how do I stop being angry? The question is, what is this anger asking me to understand? And what am I going to do with that information? When you start treating your emotions, all of them, as messengers instead of problems, you change your relationship with yourself. You stop fighting yourself. You start understanding yourself. And that understanding, that's where real change lives. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. What are your tricks to deal with your anger? I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Take care of yourselves. See you in the next one.